Big regulatory battles often make strange bedfellows as opposing forces are thrust into alliances not of their choosing. Could this be the case for the vaping industry in Canada, as it jostles with politicians and policymakers over the specifics of Canada's new federal vaping regulations? Big Tobacco is poised to assert its claim to the marketplace with risk-reduced products and a new vision of a smoke-free future. After pouring more than $3 billion into the research, development, testing, and trial marketing of risk-reduced tobacco products, Phillip Morris International, through its Canadian subsidiary Rothmans, Benson Hedges, released the Iqos, its new heat-not-burn technology.
Iqos is a unique tobacco heating system that uses heat sticks along with an innovative Iqos holder.
Now on the market in British Columbia, Alberta, and Ontario, the Iqos works by heating a specially designed tobacco stick, just enough to produce an aerosol, but not enough to burn. And it's the burning of tobacco products which produces most of the toxic chemicals that cause disease, a fact on which almost all agree, including public health.
I'm sure you've heard it on your program before, but it's not the nicotine that kills Canadians. It really is the delivery device, and in the case of combustible tobacco products, smoking, it is the cigarette that is killing Canadians.
It's this stark reality that propels the growth of less harmful alternatives to smoking, like the Iqos, and of course vaping, which has skyrocketed to popularity in Canada and around the world. Vaping has taken a big bite out of Big Tobacco's business, and for most vapers, there's no love lost. But dramatic changes are underway, which portend an alliance, if not at least a symbiotic concern over regulations and a shared philosophy on harm reduction. Joining us today by phone to discuss the Iqos and Senate Bill S5, which I should remind our viewers regulates both vaping and tobacco products, is Peter Luongo, Managing Director at Rothmans, Benson Hedges. RBH is Canada's second largest tobacco company, and its parent PMI just launched a new global website focused entirely on affirming its commitment to switching all smokers to smoke-free products as quickly as possible. Peter, thanks for coming on the show. First off, what is the Iqos?
Iqos is a revolutionary heat-not-burn technology. And so what that means is that it heats tobacco instead of burning it, which produces a vapor which contains nicotine, but which presents much less risk of harm than a cigarette because it has no smoke, no ash, and less smell.
So there's no burn, and that's where the safety comes from then.
The important point to remember is that the majority of the disease that's associated with cigarettes comes from the fact that the product is burned. And in Iqos, because we just heat the tobacco, you don't have the burning, and therefore it presents less risk of harm. One thing that I do want to be clear on is that the product is not risk-free. I think that's important for people to know. It is a tobacco product that contains nicotine, and nicotine is not risk-free, but it is a better choice for adult smokers.
Peter, as you know, RegWatch covers the vaping industry in depth, and vapers, being mostly former smokers or smokers trying to quit, they have a deep suspicion regarding Big Tobacco. One question is often asked about the heat-not-burn technology concerns the ingredients that are turned into an aerosol and then inhaled. What are those ingredients?
So there is propylene glycol in the product, which is the same carrying agent that you have in e-cigarettes. In addition to the fact that you have the natural moisture in the tobacco, and obviously in the vapor as a result, you get flavor from the tobacco as well as the nicotine from the tobacco that comes out in the aerosol.
Peter, some people would respond, sure, it's propylene glycol, but what else is in there? It's Big Tobacco, so there must be secret chemicals added to the mix to make it more addictive.
Absolutely not. I think people need to look at the body of scientific evidence that we've put together on this product. PMI has done a tremendous amount of scientific research on this area. In fact, they recently submitted over 2 million pages of data to the US FDA, substantiating the fact that this product does present less risk of harm versus continuing to smoke.
Peter, in Canada, if Bill S5 were to pass as is with the no comparison clause intact, RBH would be prohibited, just like the vaping industry would be, from sharing any information with Canadians about the less harmful benefits of risk-reduced products. The irony being, RBH would not be able to talk about its new tobacco product being less harmful than its old.
We believe that the draft Tobacco and Vaping Products Act is highly problematic from that perspective, because as you mentioned, it not only prevents people from comparing vaping products to tobacco products, but it also prevents people from comparing one tobacco product to another tobacco product. And we believe that if there is scientific evidence that in fact the products are different, that it's critical that people be aware of that information. I'd go a step further and say that I believe it's actually the fundamental right of Canadian smokers to have that information.
And these regulations then would deny Canadians that information?
Yes, they would, because it would prevent anyone from promoting a product in a way that implies that there is a difference in products. And if it's in fact true that there is a difference, then I think there is a huge problem there. The draft legislation is so broad, even telling consumers that the product does not contain smoke could be in violation of the regulations.
That seems ludicrous.
I think it would be unconscionable.
Peter, listening to you, it's remarkable how much your concerns about the proposed regulations sound an awful lot like those voiced by the vaping industry in regards to harm reduction.
I think we have a lot of common ground here, actually. Our vision as a company is to switch all smokers to smoke-free products as quickly as possible. Now that we have the alternatives, now that they are available, it's imperative that we switch adult smokers as quickly to these alternatives as soon as we can. And so I think in terms of the regulatory approach to doing that, I think we should be able to find a lot of common ground with the vaping community and with the public health community at large as well.
Peter, the goal to switch all smokers to smoke-free products is laudable. However, there is a lot of well-earned mistrust of big tobacco out there.
This is not about trusting us, it's about trusting the science. People need to look at the science and look at the facts and look at all of the studies that have been done on this product, on other alternative products. I think that when they do that, they will understand the role that they can play as part of a harm reduction strategy for smokers.
In terms of strategy, Peter, do you think it's really possible for big tobacco and vaping to work together?
I've certainly never seen myself as being opposed to vaping in principle. I think there is a role for vaping products on the market. I think that it's clear that there are many consumers who see vaping as an alternative to smoking. And I think that's a positive thing from a health perspective. And certainly, we believe in a portfolio approach to solving the fact that there are still over 4 million Canadians who are smoking today. And so I don't think that there's any reason that we can't work together on these issues. Clearly, there will be competition in business, but I think healthy competition can benefit everyone if it's done under the appropriate regulatory frameworks.
In regards to the regulations, what is RBH looking for?
We're hopeful that when the Senate takes up the bill, that they will consult with people who are experts in the field, and that they will take a very hard look at these provisions, which are very draconian and do not serve the public's interest at the end of the day. If we have appropriate restrictions, but restrictions that still allow for consumers to get truthful and scientifically substantiated information, and then the various manufacturers can compete within that regulated space. And I think that's absolutely appropriate, and we believe that we can be successful in that environment.
Finally, Peter, is RBH looking for every smoker in Canada to switch to the Iqos?
Obviously, that would be great, but people should remember that quitting is the best alternative if they're really concerned about disease related to nicotine and tobacco use. There will be room for many different types of products. Consumers have different preferences, so our objective is to switch people as quickly as possible to smoke-free alternatives, whichever they may be.
Well, that's it for this edition of RegWatch. Before you head off, please like us on Facebook and don't forget to follow us on Twitter. For RegulatorWatch.com, I'm Brent Stafford.